Have you ever been in a cult? Well, your ancestors probably were, and hey, mine too, don't worry. I mean, there have literally been thousands of cults since ancient history. And no, I'm not talking about religion, I'm talking about cults. Hello, curious minds. I'm V, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 ancient cults that might still exist today. Number 5, the Kaali Meteor. Thousands of years ago, a meteor hit Estonia with the force of a Hiroshima bomb. The meteor fragmented, creating 9 craters, which are now called the Kaali crater field. One of these craters was over 100 meters and became a site of holy worship for some of the locals. Surrounding the water-filled crater is a large stone wall from the late Bronze Age, and the wall is stronger than any of the other similar structures in the surrounding area that were made at the time, hinting to scientists and historians the importance of the building. A large, concentrated amount of animal remains were found at the Kaali crater and led anthropologists to believe that they were used as ritualistic sacrifices. The thing is, the bones were found thousands of years after the wall was built, meaning the crater was a consistent site of worship for thousands of years. There are several legends surrounding the lake, especially in Finnish mythology. Here's a quick synopsis. Quote, Louis, the evil wizard, steals the sun and fire from people, causing total darkness. Ukko, the god of the sky, orders a new sun to be made from a spark. The virgin of the air starts to make a new sun, but the spark drops from the sky and hits the ground. The spark goes to an Alueen, or Kaleven lake, and causes its water to rise. Finnish heroes see the ball of fire falling somewhere behind the Neva River. The heroes head in that direction to seek fire, and they finally gather flames from a forest fire. End quote. The legend mentions a spark of sun, referring to the meteor, which when landed caused a huge impact and a forest fire. I mean, it's like dropping an actual bomb. The impact was insane. The crater has no noted reports of being an active worship site as of today, but such a widespread belief must have been passed down. I highly doubt the beliefs would have just ended there. Number 4, the Pythagoreans. Pythagoreanism originated in 600 BC, based on the beliefs and teachings that Pythagoras and his followers held. Pythagoras established the first Pythagorean community in the ancient Greek colony of Croton. The beliefs spread quickly throughout the land, and the death of Pythagoras created even more popularity as people created their own traditions within the belief system. The beliefs influenced Plato, and through him, they influenced Western philosophy. Most of the surviving information on Pythagoras came from Aristotle and the philosophers of the Peripatetic school. The beliefs spread widely, and some say that they have survived as part of the Bacchic cult and Orphism. The beliefs included science and religion. Pythagoras was very well known in ancient times for his mathematical achievement, the Pythagorean theorem. I wish he wasn't as well known because I hated that class. He was also noted for his discovery that music had mathematic foundations. He's been credited as the philosopher who first discovered music intervals and is said to have invented the monochord. As I said, a lot of the information we now have on Pythagoras came from Aristotle and the Peripatetic school. The 5th century BCE information do not have any elements of supernatural entities, but by 4th century BCE, legends and fables were introduced into the belief system. Pythagoras founded the first community in Croton during 5th century BCE. He described it as a secret society, and he also gained political influence. The military and economy in Croton soon became very strong. In the early years, the Pythagorean sects were closed societies, where new members were chosen by existing ones, based on intelligence and discipline. Then they went under a 5-year initiation period where they would listen to teachings in complete silence. Then they would complete a test, and if they passed, they would be welcomed to the inner circle. But they were able to leave whenever they wanted. Soon, it became customary for family members to become Pythagoreans, as it developed into a philosophical tradition that influenced everyday life and swore members to secrecy. Within his teachings, Pythagoras emphasized moderation, vegetarianism, respect for elders and the state, and believed in a monogamous family structure. Boring! They believed the soul of humans was buried in the body, and the highest reward a human could attain was the soul joining the gods, meaning that they escaped reincarnation. They believed the soul was buried in the body as punishment, but that the soul could be purified, so they did a lot of soul cleansing rituals. The list of beliefs honestly go on and on. They include things like harmony, music, geometry, arithmetic, numbers, and cosmology. The disputes regarding Pythagoras' teachings began shortly after his death, which was caused by an arson attack. The disagreements led to 2 separate Pythagorean traditions, acousmatikoi and mathematikoi. The mathematikoi recognized the religious undertones of Pythagoreanism and studied it as part of their practice, but they focused more on the science and research part of Pythagoreanism. Their scientific pursuits were largely mathematical, but they did also conduct research in fields that Pythagoras had in his lifetime. The acousmaticoi believed humans had to act in inappropriate ways. They refused to recognize the advancements that the mathematicoi were making in mathematical and scientific research, which were, as I said, in line with Pythagoras' beliefs. They also challenged his original teachings, including harmony, justice, ritual purity, and morals. The tension between the two groups only grew as their individual beliefs grew further and further apart over the years. Number 3. The snake cult of Glycon. Glycon was an ancient snake god who had a large and influential cult in the Roman Empire during the 2nd century. The cult is thought to have originated in Macedonia, where other snake cults, much like Glycon, had existed for centuries. Macedonians believed snakes had magical powers in fertility. Initially, the cult did not worship the spirit of the snake or an abstract idea of a godly snake. Instead, they worshipped an actual, physically tangible snake that resembled the god. The creator of this cult, Alexander, foretold that there would be a reincarnation of Asclepius. It's said that Alexander procured an egg, and when the people gathered to see it hatch, Alexander cut the goose egg open and revealed the prophetic snake god inside. The small snake grew to the size of a man, with the features of a human on its face, including long blonde hair. Some say that the figure depicted at this stage was actually just a puppet, or a trained snake with a puppet head. Creepy. The focus of worship in the cult was fertility. Barren women would bring offerings to Glycon in the hopes of becoming pregnant. By 160 AD, the cult's teachings and methods began to spread. An inscription from that era reads, "Glycon, protect us from the plague cold." The same year, the government of Asia declared that he was the protector of Glycon's oracle. The governor also married Alexander's daughter. Many sought prophecies from Alexander, yearning to learn of what their future holds and even how they might perish. The cult's beliefs were spread through lower social classes, and over time, even high-class citizens and officials were die-hard believers of Glycon's healing, and of the prophecies Alexander told. The support and belief of the emperors, paired with the healing powers of serpents throughout history, lured many people into the cult. There was no shortage of converts and believers. Roman coins were even made in honor of Glycon, which likely happened way after Alexander's lifetime. For at least 100 years after Alexander's passing, a new Glycon cult formed and began to spread their influence. Statues and other archaeological finds have been located in Tomi, now known as Constata, displaying just how present the cult was throughout history in the large city. The Glycon cult is still referred to this day. The statue that was found in Constata, Romania is on display at the Constata History and Archaeology Museum. The statue is even commemorated on a postage stamp from 1974 and on a 10,000 lei banknote from 1994. And to this day, people declare themselves as devotees of Glycon. Talk about a long-lasting influence. Number 2, the Elusinian Mysteries. The Elusinian Mysteries were initiations that were held every year for the cult of Demeter and Persephone. They took place at the Pan-Hellenic sanctuary of Ulysses in ancient Greece. They're considered the most famous of the secret ancient Greek religious sites. Their basis was an old agrarian cult, and there's evidence that they were derived from the religious practices of the Mycenaean period. The mysteries referred to Hades' abduction of Demeter's daughter, Persephone, and was told in 3 phases: descent, search, and ascent. Originally, the cult of Demeter was private, hidden under the telesterion. Some of the practices are seemingly influenced by other religious practices, specifically those from the Mycenaean period. The group would hold a feast. At the beginning, priests would fill 2 special vessels and then pour them out, one to the east and one to the west. Then, the people would look upwards and downwards while chanting, "Reign and conceive." Then, a child was initiated into the group from the divine fire. Honestly, I tried to decode this part for a while, but I had very little success, I'm sorry. The climax of the celebration represented the force of the new life. When the mysteries started, immortality was not a part of the beliefs, but as time went on, they believed that it would grant them a better fate in the underworld. Eventually, the mysteries were spread wide, and people from all over flocked to participate. Eventually, the mysteries were controlled by 2 families, which led to a huge number of initiates. The only requirements were that you had never directly caused someone's death and that you were able to speak Greek. Men, women, and slaves were all welcome. The mysteries came to an end around 170 AD, after it was ransacked by the Samaritans. Eventually, the building decayed and the religion died down, but it is still referred to often in art and literature, and many interesting theories regarding present-day mysteries have been mentioned. Number 1. The cult of sacrifice. The cult of sacrifice is a pretty interesting one, and it actually differs a lot from the others because the cult did not worship any specific entity or object of power. The cult of sacrifice originated thousands of years ago, but its presence was not constant. It mainly occurred during great times of stress when its beliefs and practices would be most useful. Records of the cult are poorly recalled and only exist in written form, so the origin's location is unknown, but it is speculated that it began in the eastern hemisphere of Rathnear because most written evidence was found there. As I mentioned earlier, the cult did not have an object or entity that they worshipped. Instead, they believed in sacrificing elements of their own life for the good of others. The cult was based on the idea of charity and self-sacrifice for the benefit of others, in particular, those who need it most. The cult took these ideals to an absolute extreme though. They would starve and fast, not because it was a religious practice, but because they'd given all of their food to others who were perceived as having less. They were minimalists, not because they wanted to be, but because they would give all of their money and material possessions away to those who were perceived as having less. Essentially, they would damage themselves to the point of illness and death just in the name of sacrifice and in the hope of helping. This was most likely the reason that the cult had such sporadic activity throughout centuries, because they were pretty extreme and a lot of people didn't survive. To join the cult, the only thing necessary was the blessing of an existing cult member, like any cult member. So yeah, it was able to spread through small communities pretty quickly. I'm kind of stuck on how strange the towns that this cult was prominent in probably looked. Like, I'm imagining people sleeping on the streets, freezing, overheating, and starving, while there's just like a massive hoard of food that they've placed in the town center for the less fortunate. But like, no one will touch the food, and all of their houses are empty because they're the only ones living there. Crazy. The cult is essentially extinct because, mostly everyone who was a member ended up dying from their loyal devotion. However, the cult came to its official end on August 8th, 2021, when the last member died. The cult officially died because, if you remember, the only way to join the cult is to be blessed by an existing member. So, the faith is officially extinguished. I mean, their ideology is good, but extremism is never good. Middle ground, that's the sweet spot. That brings us to the end of today's list. Would you join any of these cults? Let me know in the comment or send me a DM. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed today's video, but most importantly, I hope you learned something. Stay curious. Bye!